Hello, everybody. Welcome to All Villa No Filler. Please remember to like and subscribe. Click that subscribe button. Aston Villa have come into a bit of money, haven't they? They've looked at the lottery ticket and they've seen six numbers come up. They're like, hang about, where's all this money coming from? Well, I'll tell you what, it's coming from a Greek betting company called Betano. Indeed, yes, 40 million quid to be exact. Well, look, so Aston Villa have ended their front of shirt sponsorship deal with BK8. This is according to Sam Wallace in the Telegraph, who said that Aston Villa have sealed the biggest shirt front sponsorship in the club's history. Betano will pay 20 million a year for the next 2 years, so 40 million pound deal, more than doubling what BK were paying before. And in the world of PSR and FFP, you have to say, well done to the commercial team, well done to Chris Heck, who, the article says oversaw the Betano deal. It was also him who ended the Castori shirt maker deal. Shirt producer, whatever, and replaced it with Adidas. Yes, there we go. So you look, in a world of PSR and FFP, Aston Villa have to up their revenues quite substantially. We've seen numbers before where Villa are behind Leeds, Leicester, West Ham, barely even in the top 20, I think, for revenues global wise within football teams. So that's something that Aston Villa has to change if that's something we want to be in the Champions League. Now, obviously, there are lots of different factors that are going to be painful for fans. If that means that prices are going to go up with tickets and those kind of things, these are debates that are definitely things to be had that I want to talk to about with other Villa fans on this podcast. I don't just want to keep going on about it myself. But yes, there's obviously negative side effects to FP and PSI because if clubs have to drive their revenues, then things get more expensive, don't they? But at the same time, it also means that commercial teams have to get more creative. It means they have to drive bigger deals. And that's, hopefully what we're seeing signs of under Chris Heck with the new Betano deal and with Adidas coming in. Personally, I'm delighted with Adidas. I said it a couple of months ago that, I think Arsenal have nailed it with Adidas in that they figured out that pop culture counts, being cool counts. Sports brands, sports apparel is very much on brand at the moment. It's very in fashion. Fashion houses, sending models down catwalks. Believe me, I'm reporting this stuff. Wearing Adidas shirts, like wearing an Arsenal shirt, for instance, at Paris Fashion Week recently. Arsenal also have shirts that are made not even team to wear on the pitch, but just specific sort of one-off shirts that you can buy in the club shop. Themed shirts, and that's ultimately the sort of path Aston Villa have to go down. And if you've got something like Adidas, who very much are a part of pop culture, are seen, as a cool brand, that's got to help Aston Villa. I just can't help but think that it does. And hopefully Adidas don't produce sweaty shirts like a previous kit maker did. But also, yes, Betano, look, there's only 2 more years that Premier League clubs are going to be able to have betting companies on the front of their shirt. This is going to be an interesting debate in 2 years' time because, look, there's a reason clubs beyond the top six tend to go with betting companies. And the reason for that is because they probably can't get the kind of money out of non-gambling companies that they can from gambling companies compared to, say, the top clubs, like, like I don't know, was it Chelsea was sponsored by Samsung for years? Is it Arsenal have Emirates sponsor them? Um, uh, I mean, Man United's were they Chevrolet for years? I can't even remember who they sponsors them now. But look, AIG sponsored them for years as well. So, the it's more challenging to get big deals from big companies when you're not regularly in the Champions League, when you're not regularly, at the top of the Premier League and one of the, more popular clubs globally. And that's why they go with the gambling companies. And so in 2 years' time, There may have to be some adjustments to the PSR limits if clubs simply can't get the sponsorship deals that they can with gambling companies. Uh, and let's face it, with the clubs at the moment struggling like Everton, points deductions, Nottingham Forest with their own points deduction, Leicester now getting sanctioned today. Everton may have another points deduction coming for breaking PSR rules. Look, there's going to be certain things that might have to be discussed in the next couple of years. I am a supporter of FFP. That said, whilst I think it is creating conditions in which clubs that have been in the Champions League for a long time, um, obviously are at an advantage because of the revenues they've been able to make for a long time, and it is therefore harder for clubs like Villa, Newcastle, um, I mean, God, even Brentford, whoever, to catch up. At the end of the day, our clubs have to be smart about things. And, Everton are moving to a new stadium. Who knows what that might do for their revenues long term on the match day? Obviously, I bet the facilities will be a lot better. I bet they'll be able to make a lot more money because with it on the match day itself, because there'll be fans will be able to spend more because facilities will be better. People will want to hang around it more. That's hopefully what one day Aston Villa can do in our stadium. That we can have better facilities that gets us hanging around there more. We've got the warehouse coming in, which I'm excited about. Again, it's frustrating to have to talk about revenues. It's not something I ever thought I'd ever be talking about or caring about as a football fan. But unfortunately, at the moment, that's it's just such a big part of the game. And ultimately, the reason I do support FFP is because at the end of the day, it's protecting football from itself. Because let's face it, if Newcastle tomorrow been owned by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia and therefore having more money than has ever existed on the planet in their own bank account, if they tomorrow decided, you know what, with that FFP in place, Douglas Luiz is good at Aston Villa. Let's do what Man City did in 2008 and target all their rivals, right? Remember when City bought Villa, Everton players, and when they targeted Arsenal players? Remember? And then they went after Barcelona. PSG went after Barcelona. Uh, That's not healthy, is it? Particularly when it's a nation state. It's just not, because what it's going to do to the economics of football is drive it totally insane to a point where literally no one can compete unless you are a nation state. I mean, let's face it. If Newcastle tomorrow decide they want to spend 200 million quid on Douglas Luiz, with that FFP in place, they could do it and probably offer him wages that absolutely nobody else in the world could compete with other than PSG and Manchester City. And guess what? They're owned by nation states. Um, I mean, who else? They might look at Douglas Luiz and go, "Oh, do you know what? He had a really good partnership with Boubacar Kamara. Should we just stick 150 million quid on Boubacar Kamara? Yeah, let's do that." And then it'd be like, well, all right, well, we could use that money at Aston Villa to go and build big and, make a lot of money like Liverpool did selling Coutinho to Barcelona and then went and bought Alisson and Virgil van Dijk. But in the end, it doesn't matter because within a year, we bought a good player and Newcastle go, he's all right. It's offered crazy money. And how on earth is that good for football? It isn't. It isn't. So look, and that's not to say that FFP is a perfect solution because it isn't. It's going to need to evolve. Absolutely, it's going to need to evolve because this is not a healthy place for it at the moment when clubs are getting points deductions on quite a regular basis, and I fear it's going to continue for the next couple of seasons now. But look, slightly digress there. But look, yes, Batano. Ideally we wouldn't have you wouldn't always be having gambling companies. You look at the terrible addiction problems a lot of people have with it, and please gamble responsibly if you do. Um, but ultimately, what Aston Villa have to do now is drive their revenues as high as they can for the next 2 years before, that gambling sponsorship therefore can't be part of the club anymore, or at least on the shirt at the club anymore. And that's the way that they look at it. And the commercial team, doubling our shirt sponsorship. It's a job well done, isn't it? Really. So yes, yeah, murky old world in it. But look, it's if it means Aston Villa can compete at the top, that's a good thing. But yeah, I have lots of different thoughts on it. Lots of different thoughts on it. But yeah, is what it is. And look, Unai Emery, Hopefully, can get us into the Champions League this season, and hopefully that can help us in future to keep growing as a club, to keep getting the best facilities, the best players, and the best possible version of ourselves as a football club. Let me know what you think about it. 40 million quid. What would you do with that? Personally, I'd probably go and buy a brilliant football player and bring him to five-a-side every week so I could just win every game and say to everyone, trust me, this guy's really bloody good. He's bloody good. Or maybe buy my own cinema, just watch repeats of Emery's best moments at Aston Villa or Mad Max Fury Road. What a film. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Up the mighty Villa.